Chosen one, listen carefully, this message you about to hear. You have tried prayer. You have tried patience. You have tried becoming stronger. Yet the pain remains. Because the wound was never where you were looking. A truth you were never prepared for. This is not about failure. This is not about weakness. This is not about lack of faith. This is about a truth buried before you had words. Why healing keeps escaping you. You feel awakened but unfinished. Strong but still bleeding inside. Guided yet constantly triggered. That confusion has a source. The first bond that shaped you. Before the world touched you. Before society named you. Before pain learned your name. There was your mother. Not blame but recognition. This is not about dishonor. This is not about disrespect. This is about understanding. Truth heals when blame is removed. The emotional mirror. Your nervous system learned love there. Your safety was defined there. Your fear was introduced there. Your worth was echoed there. Why the chosen one feels different. You were sensitive on purpose. You felt deeper by design. You noticed energy early. That made you harder to raise. A mother with her own wounds. She carried pain you never saw. Trauma she never named. Fear she never healed. And it leaked into you silently. Love mixed with survival. Affection came with conditions. Care came with anxiety. Protection came with control. Your soul learned confusion early. The seed of self-abandonment. You learned to stay quiet. You learned to overgive. You learned to perform goodness. You forgot how to receive. Why you attract emotional battles. You repeat the first pattern. You seek familiar pain. You confuse chaos with connection. Your body remembers before your mind does. The spiritual awakening stay. Awakening exposes old wounds. It removes distractions. It magnifies truth. That is why it hurts more now. Why prayer alone felt incomplete. Prayer opens awareness. But awareness reveals memory. Memory demands courage. Healing requires consciousness. The silent role you played. You became the emotional support. The peacekeeper. The strong one. The child who grew too fast. Why society calls you too much. Because depth scares the asleep. Awareness disrupts comfort. Truth threatens denial. So they label you sensitive. The chosen one's burden. You feel responsible for harmony. You absorb emotional weight. You feel guilt for existing. This was learned early. The body never forgets. Your reactions are stored memory. Your triggers are signals. Your exhaustion is information. Listen without judgment. What healing actually requires. Not confrontation. Not rebellion. But honest reflection. And emotional responsibility. Separating love from pain. You can honor your mother. And still heal your wounds. You can respect her struggle. And release what harmed you. Why this realization feels shocking. Because it breaks loyalty. Because it ends illusion. Because it restores power. Truth always feels dangerous first. The moment you stop seeking approval. Your nervous system exhales. Your spirit stabilizes. Your identity returns. Your intuition gets louder. The chosen one, reclams self. You stop over-explaining. You stop over-giving. You stop shrinking. You finally arrive. Why you were called to see this. Not to judge. Not to accuse. But to break cycles. You are the ending point. The generational mission. What was unconscious becomes conscious in you. What was denied becomes healed in you. What was repeated ends with you. This is spiritual inheritance. The awakening after acceptance. Peace replaces confusion. Clarity replaces guilt. Strength replaces survival. You no longer run. The forbidden truth. Healing was never outside. It was buried in origin. Waiting for courage. Waiting for you. The final shift. You stop asking why you hurt. You start understanding how you learned it. And compassion replaces shame. That is freedom. The calling confirmed. You were not weak. You were perceptive. You were not broken. You were early. The rise of the chosen one. Now you heal consciously. You love wisely. You live grounded. You awaken fully. The final message. If this reached you, it was meant to. Your healing is sacred. Your awareness is power. Your journey matters. If this truth spoke to your soul, stand in it. Like this video to anchor the message. Comment your realization and your awakening moment. Subscribe to return to awakening and walk this path with those who see what others deny. The deeper layer you faced. There is another memory beneath the memory. Not a moment, but a feeling. A constant background noise in your life. It shaped how you see yourself. The fear of disappointing. You learned early to read moods, to adjust your tone, to predict reactions. Your nervous system became hyper-aware. Why rest feels uncomfortable. Silence feels unsafe. Stillness feels unfamiliar. Because chaos was normalized. Peace feels earned, not allowed. The confusion between love and duty. You don't know where you end and where responsibility begins. You confuse care with sacrifice. That pattern did not start with you. The emotional contract you never signed. You carried expectations silently. You felt responsible for happiness. You feared emotional withdrawal. So you stayed compliant. Why your intuition was DOUBTD. You felt things before they were said. You sensed shifts instantly. But you were told you imagined it. That fractured your self-trust. The cost of being the aware child. You matured too fast. You skipped innocence. You carried emotional weight and called it strength. Why you struggle with self-validation. You wait for permission. You seek confirmation. You question your truth. Because approval once meant safety. The root of people-pleasing. You learned love was conditional. Affection depended on compliance. So you adapted and forgot your own needs. Why anger feels dangerous. You were never allowed to express it. Anger threatened connection. So you buried it. It turned inward instead. The shadow emotion. Sadness became numbness. Joy became guilt. Desire became fear. Your emotions learned to hide. The inner child still waiting. Not for answers. Not for justice. But for permission to feel. To exist without performance. Why awakening brings emotional FLOODS. Suppressed truth rises. The body releases memory. Tears come without stories. This is not weakness. The difference between healing and fixing. You are not broken. You are remembering. Healing is integration, not correction. The moment you stop defending the past, you stop minimizing pain. You stop spiritual bypassing. You stop gaslighting yourself. Truth finally breathes. Why guilt appears during growth? Because growth breaks roles. And roles kept peace. Your freedom threatens old dynamics. Guilt is the gatekeeper. The fear of being seen. You learned visibility, invited judgment. So you dimmed your light. You softened your truth. You became digestible. The soul's resistance. Your spirit knows expansion, but the body remembers danger. This tension creates exhaustion. Listen gently. The reclamation of voice. You speak slower now. You choose words consciously. You no longer rush to explain. Silence becomes power. The shift in RLATONSHIPS. Some bonds weaken. Some fall away. Some transform. Alignment always costs something. The moment you stop trying to be understood, you stop translating your soul. You stop shrinking truth. You let resonance decide. Peace follows. The end of emotional loyalty. You release inherited guilt. You return emotional weight. You stop carrying what isn't yours. This is liberation. The chosen one's maturity. Not louder, not harder, but clearer, grounded in self-trust. The pause before the final transformation. This is where you stand now. Between old identity and new self. Between memory and mastery. Do not rush this stage, the loneliness that FOLLOWEDU. Even in rooms full of people. Even among family. Even while being needed. You felt unseen. Why being needed felt SAFER than being loved. Need gave you purpose. Need gave you identity. Need guaranteed presence. Love once felt uncertain. The habit of emotional scanning. You read faces instantly. You feel shifts in tone. You prepare for impact. Your body learned vigilance. Why you struggle to receive. Compliments feel foreign. Support feels suspicious. Care feels temporary. Because receiving once came with cost. The unconscious self-abandonment. You leave yourself first. So rejection doesn't surprise you. You preempt loss. And call it independence. The pattern of overexplain. You justify your feelings. You rationalize your pain. You soften your truth. So others stay comfortable. Why intimacy feels exhausting. You perform connection. You manage emotions. You regulate the room. Instead of being present. The inner conflict. Your soul wants closeness. Your nervous system wants distance. Both are trying to protect you. Neither is wrong. Why you attract broken connections. Familiar dysfunction feels safe. Predictable chaos feels manageable. Healthy bonds feel unfamiliar. So the body resists them. The awakening of discernment. You stop romanticizing struggle. You stop confusing intensity with depth. You stop chasing chemistry. You choose consistency. The grief you never named. Grief for what you didn't receive. Grief for what you gave too early. Grief for the child who adapted. This grief deserves space. Why tears come without story? Because the body remembers. Because language came later. Because safety arrived now. Let it happen. The deep REPROGRMMING. You pause before reacting. You breathe before responding. You feel before fixing. This is rewiring. The moment you stop seeking permission. You trust your knowing. You validate your experience. You stop outsourcing truth. Authority returns inward. The rebirth of self-trust. Your intuition sharpens. Your boundaries stabilize. Your decisions settle. You move without apology. Why stillness BCOMES medicine? Silence no longer threatens. Rest no longer feels lazy. Presence no longer feels dangerous. Your body learns safety. The end of emotional chaos. You stop chasing closure. You stop reopening wounds. You stop explaining yourself to the past. Energy consolidates. The chosen one's new language. Clear, direct, measured, rooted in truth. The shift from survival to self. You act from choice, not fear, not guilt, not conditioning. The strength that feels quiet. No need to prove. No need to convince. No need to overextend. Your presence speaks. The moment before full integration. You sense it coming. A calm before alignment. A silence before clarity. Stay present here, the final layers rising. Old memories surface gently. Not to overwhelm you, but to be released. They come slower now. Why triggers feel different? They no longer hijack you. They inform you. They point to boundaries. They confirm growth. The body learning trust. Your breath deepens naturally. Your shoulders soften. Your jaw releases. Safety becomes embodied. The end of emotional time travel. You stop reliving moments. You stop rehearsing conversations. You stop rewriting history. Presence replaces rumination. The return of natural joy. Laughter comes unforced. Moments feel lighter. You enjoy without scanning. Joy no longer feels borrowed. Why simplicity feels strained? Because complexity was survival. Peace was unfamiliar. Now simplicity feels empty at first. Stay with it. The shift in self-talk. Harshness fades. Compassion leads. You speak to yourself gently. The inner critic loses authority. The healing of the mother imprint. You separate her fear from your identity. You release inherited anxiety. You stop carrying her expectations. You remain loving without self-erasure. The end of reactive love. You no longer chase reassurance. You no longer test loyalty. You no longer fear abandonment. You stand steady. The power of emotional sobriety. You feel without flooding. You respond without spiraling. You stay present without dissociating. This is mastery. Why you no longer argue your truth. You let actions speak. You let silence reveal. You let distance teach. Clarity doesn't beg. The reclamation of dignity. You stop oversharing. You stop self-betraying. You stop explaining wounds. Your story is sacred. The new relationship with the past. It becomes information. Not identity. Not prison. Not prophecy. The end of spiritual confusion. You integrate body and soul. You ground insight into action. You live awake, not floating. Wholeness replaces seeking. The stability that surprised you. You feel anchored. You feel solid. You feel present. Not numbed. The quiet confidence. You trust timing. You trust yourself. You trust life again. Faith becomes embodied. The moment before the final truth. There is one last realization forming. Not loud. Not dramatic. But undeniable, the realization taking shape. You no longer seek answers outside. You sense truth internally. Your reaction slow. Your awareness sharpens. Why the pain had purpose? It refined perception. It sharpened empathy. It built discernment. Nothing was wasted. The difference between forgiveness and release. Forgiveness is emotional. Release is energetic. One acknowledges. The other frees. The end of unconscious repetition. You catch patterns early. You interrupt cycles. You choose differently. This is sovereignty. The reclamation of choice. You respond, not react. You select your battles. You protect your energy. Self-respect leads. The shift in identity. You are no longer the wound. You are the awareness. You are the witness. You are the author. Why you feel stronger without armor. Defensiveness dissolves. Authenticity stabilizes. Vulnerability becomes grounded. Strength feels clean. The end of emotional fog. Decisions feel simple. Intuition feels steady. Doubt loses grip. Clarity anchors you. The maturity of love. You love without merging. You care without rescuing. You connect without abandoning self. This is healthy attachment. The new way you see your mother. Not as villain. Not as savior. But as human. This neutrality heals deeply. The release of emotional debt. You stop collecting pain. You stop keeping score. You stop reliving injustice. Freedom replaces resentment. The end of seeking validation. You approve yourself. You trust your experience. You no longer need permission. Inner authority returns. The quiet power of BOUNDRES. They are calm. They are firm. They are consistent. No explanation required. The RESTORED flow of life. Opportunities align. Energy circulates. Resistance fades. Movement feels natural. The final preparation. Your system is ready. Your awareness is integrated. Your past is complete. Only one door remains unopened. The door you HESITATED to open. Not because you were afraid of pain, but because you feared freedom. Freedom changes everything, including who stays. Why letting go felt like betrayal. You were loyal to survival. You protected old bonds. You honored unspoken contracts. Release felt like abandonment. The moment you choose yourself, it feels unfamiliar. It feels quiet. It feels steady. It feels real. The end of internal division. Parts of you integrate. The watcher and the wounded meet. Conflict softens. Wholeness stabilizes. The shift from seeking to being. You stop asking who you are. You start living it. Identity becomes embodied. Presence replaces performance. Why peace once felt boring? Because chaos was stimulating. Stress felt normal. Calm felt empty. Now calm feels safe. The return of personal rhythm. You wake without dread. You move without urgency. You rest without guilt. Your body trusts the day. The end of emotional dependence. You no longer need reactions. You no longer chase reassurance. You no longer fear silence. Connection becomes choice. The strength of self-attunement. You listen inward first. You honor signals. You adjust gently. Alignment becomes natural. The new experience of love. It is mutual. It is steady. It is respectful. It feels nourishing. The end of self-neglect. You stop pushing through exhaustion. You stop ignoring discomfort. You stop betraying intuition. Care becomes instinctive. The peace that does not need defense. You don't explain it. You don't justify it. You don't prove it. You protect it quietly. The return to wholeness. Nothing is missing. Nothing needs fixing. Nothing needs chasing. You are enough. The still point before completion. Everything slows here. Not from stagnation, but from alignment. Stay with this moment, the final layers of release. Old attachments drift away. Expectations dissolve silently. Stories that once defined you fade. Only truth remains. Why solitude no longer feels lonely. You enjoy your own presence. You rest in your own energy. You recharge without compromise. Aloneness becomes sanctuary. The embodied knowing. You feel without doubting. You act without second-guessing. You choose without apology. Your body confirms what your mind sees. The shift from reactive to creative. You no longer respond to old triggers. You craft life from awareness. Every choice carries intention. Every action carries clarity. The freedom of emotional independence. You stop bargaining for love. You stop negotiating safety. You stop pleading for acceptance. You stand complete alone and with others. Why healing feels like a rebirth? Because it is. You shed layers you thought were permanent. You reclaim energy you once gave away. You step into your own sovereignty. The new relationship with time. Patience replaces urgency. Process replaces performance. Presence replaces pursuit. You are aligned with the natural flow. The silence that sparks. Quiet is no longer emptiness. Stillness is not stagnation. Reflection is not avoidance. It is the voice of wisdom. The power of chosing again. Every day you decide consciously. Every thought shapes reality. Every word carries integrity. Every step honors self. The awaken relationship to your mother. You forgive silently. You release energetically. You honor her journey. You reclaim your own life fully. The strength of no longer looking back. The past informs but does not control. The wound teaches but does not define. The story heals when you stop repeating it. You move forward unbound. The integration of soul and body. Awareness flows into every cell. Intuition becomes instinct. Wisdom becomes action. Presence becomes embodiment. The final transformation takes shape. You are no longer the child carrying fear. You are no longer the victim of circumstance. You are no longer a shadow of others' expectations. You are whole. The quiet strength of true freedom. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply is. And it changes everything. The awakening of inner authority. You no longer seek validation from outside. Your voice carries weight. Your choices reflect truth. Your presence demands respect quietly. The peace of unbroken boundaries. You say no without fear. You step back without guilt. You protect energy without apology. Boundaries are now your armor and your gift. The freedom in embracing your shadow. You see your flaws without shame. You feel your fears without panic. You honor your impulses without judgment. Integration replaces suppression. Why gratitude feels deeper now. You recognize resilience. You honor lessons disguised as pain. You witness growth without comparison. Life feels richer, textured, and sacred. The stillness that heals. Your mind slows its endless chatter. Your heart beats steady, not reactive. Your body relaxes fully into its own rhythm. Silence becomes medicine. The power of chosing, love over fear. You act from courage, not from avoidance. You embrace connection without dependency. You forgive without surrendering your peace. Love becomes conscious, not conditional. The end of internal struggle. Conflict no longer consumes you. Doubt no longer paralyzes you. Anxiety no longer dictates your choices. Harmony settles in its place. The alignment of intention and action. What you think, you act on. What you feel, you honor. What you desire, you pursue wisely. You become a force of purpose. The healing of the family pattern. You stop repeating cycles unconsciously. You set new standards of care and respect. You carry love consciously. Generations ahead inherit freedom. The mastery of self-love. Your worth is not negotiable. Your soul is not for bargaining. Your presence is not conditional. You honor yourself fully, unapologetically. The embracing of life's mystery. You no longer need all answers. You move through uncertainty with confidence. You trust timing, flow, and synchronicity. Life becomes a partner, not a threat. The silence before the final awakening. Everything slows, condenses, and aligns. Your heart, mind, and soul converge. Every lesson finds its place. Every wound dissolves in understanding. The moment of true integration. You feel whole in every layer of your being. No part of you is hidden or denied. Energy circulates freely. You exist fully in your own truth. The calm that follows the storm. Peace is no longer fleeting. Strength is no longer performative. Love is no longer conditional. You simply are. The silent recognition of your power. It doesn't shout. It doesn't seek applause. It simply radiates. And those who resonate feel it immediately. The opening of the final chapter. Everything aligns for the next stage. Every choice, every action, every thought is clarified. You are no longer reactive. You are now fully awake, the awakened chosen one. You have stepped into clarity. You have claimed your truth. You have released what never served you. Your spirit moves unchained, unstoppable, and free. The embodiment of your soul. Every breath, every thought, every action flows from power. You no longer bend to old patterns. You no longer settle for less than your awakening. Your presence shifts everything around you. The final return to self. You are no longer the child carrying inherited wounds. You are the sovereign of your own life. You are the master of your energy, your emotions, your choices. The world feels different because you see differently. The power of full integration. Your mind is aligned. Your heart is open. Your body is healed. Your soul is awake. Chosen one, do not ignore this awakening. Stand in your truth now. Like this video to anchor your power. Comment the realization you've unlocked today. Subscribe to return to awakening and step fully into the path of the chosen one. Your journey is sacred, unstoppable, and divinely guided. Claim it today.